In this video, part 2 of the HDRI videos, we're going to pick up where we left off in part 1 and take a look at how to adjust the IBL settings. We have an IBL in there with a primary diffuse scale of 3 that makes the scene a little bit brighter than before. And compare that to the previous render. And we'll take a look in the scene and see that the IBL is oriented to 155 degrees in rotate Y, and that places the sun where we want it. Now we're going to augment the scene with some actual lights to help fill in and bring out some details, and then we'll start to mitigate and get rid of some of the noise in the render. I've gone ahead and created 3 directional lights that we can see here that give us a reinforced sense of key and fill and create a bit of a backlight for us. Let's go ahead and render this out with the same settings as we've had before with Final Gather and see the result. Put this in the buffer and render. Now you'll notice that Final Gather will take a first pass as it calculates final gather points, and then once it's figured out the final gathering solution, it'll start filling in the render. We've skipped ahead a little bit, and as you can see, the render is starting to complete. You can see that the 3 additional lights have really started to bring out a good fill and a good sense of sunlight coming in through. There's still quite a bit of noise caused by the final gather. That's all these little blotches, and we'll have to adjust the final gather settings to mitigate that noise. This is partly because we're using an HDRI to light the scene, so we'll have to increase accuracy and the point interpolation to get a cleaner adjustment. Now, you're noticing that we have about a 2-minute render, which is not terribly bad, but you can always reduce the render time by turning down some of the sampling levels. And you can see I've set it to a custom sample of 0 and 1 with a fairly good anti-aliasing contrast threshold. Go ahead and increase this number and possibly decrease the max and the min a little bit to get faster results if your system's taking a long time to render. But for the noise, let's leave everything as it is. Go back into the Indirect Lighting tab, and let's turn up the accuracy to 500. We'll also want to turn up the point interpolation to 50. This will help merge these splotches together into a more consistent lighting look. Turning up the accuracy allows more points to be cast in this scene, which gives a cleaner look. Let's put this into the buffer, and let's go ahead and render with the new settings. Skipping ahead a couple of minutes into the render, you can see that Final Gather is putting in much tighter and many more little points in its calculation phase. This render should take probably close to 5 minutes in comparison to the 2 minutes from before, but you'll get a much nicer result. And as the render completes, you can see that increasing the final gather has dramatically helped the noise in the scene. You'll probably want to continue changing some of the final gather settings, turning up the point density, turning up accuracy and interpolation some more, to get a cleaner image yet, get rid of a little bit more of that blotchy final gather output. But for a 5-minute render, we've come quite a long way in the noise. Taking a quick look in the outliner, you can see here are our 3 additional lights and the Mental Ray IBL. In this video, we learned how to control and adjust a Mental Ray IBL using an HDRI image to light the scene, and also to supplement the IBL with traditional lights to render with Final Gather. And we also learned how to mitigate some of the noise and create a higher quality render of our scene. For closer analysis of this scene, you can take a look at the HDRI lighting scene completed file found in the scenes folder of the lighting project.